Continue right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Bob Pompeani with you at 412-575-2600. If you haven't heard by now, Rocky Bleier, who's been taking a better and more active role on social media, gave a Facebook rant today, and it became one that was trending really quickly. I put it up on my Twitter site at KD Pomp if you would like to take a look, but he pretty much didn't mince any words there. Rocky came out and said this is inexcusable and, quote, "I'm done," end quote, with this team. And he even suggested that defensive coordinator Keith Butler could be lost in the crosshairs, and even Mike Tomlin at the end of the day. So if you haven't seen that, check it out, but it'll just add to what has become a very impatient Steelers nation and people who have certainly made their living doing this as Rocky did back in the 1970s. Let's go to line one. David in the South Side, you're up first. What's up, David? How are you?
Yeah, all right. How you doing today?
I'm good, thanks.
I just want to make a comment about, it's a tough job being a coach for especially the Steelers because he's had so much success. But, Mike Tomlin's job is not only to win games, but to protect his franchise quarterback. And I felt that if he thought Ben could go in there and play, he would have. I'm sure the doctors let him know what his injury was.
Right, and he was cleared. Mike Tomlin said he was cleared for play.
I know he said he was cleared, but I think that was a good call for him. The less time he played, the less time he had to get hurt and be out.
Yeah, but they needed to win. You know, David, this is about winning a game, and what you are essentially saying is...
I'm sure Mike Tomlin knew that Baltimore lost.
It doesn't matter. That's all the more reason to want to win the game.
Ahead.
David, what I'm trying to tell you is the message you send, if he's cleared for play and you're clinging to a lead against a team you really should beat and have to beat. No, wait a minute, listen to me.
It's still up to him.
I realize that, and what I'm going to say is by doing that, he goes against and does a cardinal sin that he preaches against, and that is taking teams lightly. Like you can win with Josh Dobbs in there. Why would you want to take that chance if Ben Roethlisberger is cleared for play? I would get him in there as soon as possible.
But I still think he made the right call because he could have went in there 10 minutes.
He went in anyway.
5 minutes earlier and got seriously hurt. Then he'd be out for the rest of the season.
Well, you can't live in your fears if that's the case. I mean, the bottom line is that's a position of contact, and if he was cleared to play, that means he's cleared to play. That means you can put him in. If he wasn't cleared to play, I totally understand that. Roethlisberger's a gamer. To me, he wants to be in. I'm going to be interested to see how this all plays out tomorrow. But if you're saying that, I'm keeping this guy on the side because I believe we could beat this team with Josh Dobbs as my quarterback right now, you're taking a great chance. Nothing against Dobbs. He hasn't done it. And in 4 possessions, if Roethlisberger had come in there earlier, don't you think they would have produced more points than 0? They had 4 possessions. They got nothing and kept it 14-10 so that Oakland had an opportunity to score late, and they did. And so... to me, that's the wrong call, and I don't believe that for 1 minute. Let's go to Mike in Oakland. What's up, Mike? How are you?
Hey, Bob, I'm worried about you, man. You have to get rid of this cold. When's it going to go away?
I don't know. I mean, I'm taking all – if you saw what I take down here, and if you have any recipes, for health, please send them my way. But it's getting better slowly but surely. But thanks.
No, you definitely sound a lot better than you did like a week. But it's just a long cold. It's drawn out on you. I just hope you feel better.
Thanks.
But the reason I wanted to talk, briefly, quickly about what you guys were just discussing, I actually agree with that guy to a point. I feel like Ben is a gamer. He's a tough. We all know that he's a tough guy. Maybe he was cleared, but maybe his ribs were still really bothering him. Maybe it was kind of like he didn't feel the need. He had to go back in unless, obviously, when the Raiders...
So, in other words, you think it was they made a deal and said, all right, we'll only use you in an emergency situation, right?
That's what I'm thinking, because Ben is not the kind of guy that's going to sit back and not go in unless, but I would guess his ribs were probably, even though he was cleared, he was probably in pain. It was a tough hit, and he's probably like, I would rather not go in unless I have to. And then once the Raiders drove down the field, he's like, all right, I need to go in.
If that's the case, I'd like to hear that from both sides then. I think, everyone who follows this team is entitled to that sort of explanation, because at this point you're guessing. And again, when he announced that he was cleared for contact as soon as he returned to the field, I think that opens up a lot of questions.
I agree with you on that, but this was my point.
All he had to do was say that, I think if you just come out and say, look, he was cleared, But we were also told to take it easy with him and don't put him in unless it was an emergency situation.
And
that would have
settled tomorrow. I agree with you, though. But listen, briefly, I was reading, I don't know if you read the chats on the Post-Gazette, but Ray Fittipaldo's chat, and someone asked him what he thinks happened with Tomlin if they lose the rest of their games, they don't make the playoffs. And I was surprised. He actually said that Tomlin could be fired. Do you think that's really going to if we miss the playoffs, I can see some defensive coordinator changes. I don't see Tomlin going after this season, but I think he might be on the hot seat. I just want to get what you think about that.
I think the seat will be hotter, certainly because of the expectations. And if you miss the playoffs completely, I think it changes all the dynamics. And yes, there will be changes. And it could extend to more than just the defensive staff. It could be special team. It could be a lot of things. But I don't think it's going to extend to Mike Tomlin. He delegates a lot of authority. And from what I know of him, he lets those coaches coach. Now, some will tell you that he's gotten in. I don't know if that's true or not. I hear different things on that. So if he delegates authority and they're allowed to call those things, then there is change. That's probably in order if they should bow out and not even make the playoffs after once being 7-2 or whatever they were and looking at a number 2 seed. We have not seen a collapse in the second half of the season under Mike Tomlin. That's one thing I've always pretty much admired about him is the fact that he's kept teams together, and even when they've gone through droughts, they've rebounded, and they normally had, really good Novembers and Decembers. So we'll see. My apologies about this voice. I'm trying. Let's go to Mike in Bethel Park. Hey, Mike.
Yeah, hey, Bob. Just curious, this wasn't a Friday night ball game where the team needed the pep rally in the afternoon to get them fired up for the game. I got to put this on every player that walked out of the locker room in Oakland for the Steelers. It was in uniform. They were uninspired, unmotivated, no passion, and on paper, probably way more stacked talent-wise, better than Oakland. And Oakland looked like they wanted it more, Bob. And I know you.
I agree. I totally agree. And I think what you said, all you have to do is look at the dynamics of this game. When they came onto the field, they knew that the Ravens lost. They knew that the Texans lost. They knew that the Patriots lost. They should have been amped up to play that game and win that game against a 2-10 football team. Instead, they defer. Defense allows a touchdown drive right off the bat. How does that happen? Yeah. If you defer, you're thinking your defense can set a tone. Instead, the Oakland offense set a tone. And then in the fourth quarter, your defense does what it does. Come on. You either get it done or you don't. And if you look at the fourth quarter of the last several weeks, you're going to find drives of 77, touchdown drive, 75, 79, 64. These are critical drives in fourth quarters of games. Your defense has got to make plays, and they've not done that either.
I agree with you. They should have opened up, gone the whole, just stuffed it down her throat and have this game over at halftime, but that didn't happen. All right, thanks, Bob.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. All right, let's go to Jim in Saxonburg. Hey, Jim.
Hey, how you doing, Bob? A couple quick questions and one comment. First off, I was watching ESPN, and they gave the 26 finalists for next year's Hall of Fame induction, and Faneca and Ward are on it. Do you think one of them will make it? My second question is, when is Troy Polamalu eligible, and do you think he deserves to be a first-team ballot or a first-team selection?
I think it's so hard to be first-team, and Bettis has shown me that. For him to wait 5 years for what he did was a surprise to me. So I think it's hard to get first-team. I think they all will get in, who you mentioned. I think this year it would be Faneca first.
Okay, and then my comment is there is a Super Bowl winning coach who I was born and raised in Greenfield that might be looking for a job. And for far as you're cold, Dr. Jack Daniels always works for me. Talk to me about
you know what? I know Dr. Jack, and I also know his friend, old granddad, and his next-door neighbor, Jim Beam. They all work when you put it in tea. We're going to take a break. Pete, Mike, and Tom all coming up next right here live on Pittsburgh CW.